So you announced an important legal victory this week. You received congratulations from Donya at the beginning of the show today.
Thank you,
Tell
Donia.
us more about that, and yeah, and what that victory means for you and for us.
Yes, thank you, Nora. Well, as our colleague Omar Karmi reported this week in this excellent article that he wrote, he came to court with me and did some old-fashioned court reporting. Um, the highest criminal court in London, also known as the Old Bailey, ruled that British police must hand back all my computers, phones, and other items that they seized in the dawn raid on my home last year. My lawyer Taib Ali described the ruling as a resounding victory for press freedom. And as our regular viewers, listeners, and readers will know, the police raided me on in October 2024, seizing most devices in my home used for my journalism. Uh, Two computers, my phone, an old phone, an iPad, a hard drive, and an empty phone box. Puzzlingly, um, they, the, but the ruling forced them to hand back all seven items to me on Tuesday this week. Mark Lucraft, the most senior judge at the Old Bailey, London's Central Criminal Court, ruled earlier this month that the search warrants used by the so-called counter-terrorism command of the London's Metropolitan Police to justify the raid were unlawfully issued. What he wrote is, quote, "I'm very troubled by the way in which the search warrant was drafted, approved, and granted where items were to be seized from a journalist. Any warrant seeking material in the hands of a journalist requires extremely careful handling," end of quote. The judge also denied the police's request for what's known as a production order. Production order is a legal power that can be invoked in British courts, which could require journalists or others to disclose documents in limited cases. And I still haven't, just for clarity, I still haven't been arrested or charged with any crime, but police have said they are investigating my social media posts for possible offences under sections 1 and 2 of the Terrorism Act 2006, as Ali reported at the time. These provisions set out the purported offence of encouragement of terrorism. Um, so, you
So does
know,
that mean that you would still possibly be again, either like your device is again confiscated, or you could actually get arrested this time? Like, what does
well,
that mean if they if
yeah, I mean, this is the big question mark. It's not, although this is a big victory, like it's not fully over because the whole sort of pretext for the raid was this investigation into my tweets, into my social media postings, and as Omar reported in his article, the only reason they've given for that is tweets. So there was disclosed in the course of this successful litigation. Um, there were a series of there was two reports into my tweets, amounting to no less than 80 pages. Um, so it's we can't get into those tweets at the moment, but it's it is a possibility they could still arrest me or charge me with something. But I'm calling on the police to drop that investigation in light of this ruling against their flagrantly unlawful raid. So we'll see what happens with that. If for now it's a great victory. And there's an update on Omar's report today. The National Union of Journalists, my union, put out a new statement today welcoming the legal victory, the victory in the courts, and the General Secretary of the NUJ, Lord Davidson, said as part of the statement, quote, "This ruling resoundingly affirms journalists' right to protect sources as enshrined in law. The seizure of our members' property was a brazen attempt to intimidate journalists working in the public interest. Abusing counter-terror legislation to stifle press freedom undermines public trust in the police, journalist safety, well, such as it is. Uh, uh, Public trust in the police, journalist safety, and democracy. Just weeks ago, the UK Prime Minister stood up in Parliament and spoke about the importance of a free press and independent journalism. We urge the government to make good on their words and prevent the targeting of journalists like Asa Winstanley through raids and detentions. We welcome the judge's verdict and seek urgent clarity on police plans to prevent further unlawful investigations of journalists. I thought that was worth quoting in full there, because of course, it's not just about me. There's been other journalists, independent journalists like Sarah Wilkinson and Richard Medhurst, and in addition to activists that I've reported on, who similar things or worse in the case of Palestine Action activists have happened to. So this hopefully can play some sort of part in stopping anything like that happening in the future. Although I think things are still very up in the air at the moment. For my part, I think the ruling is a decisive victory for press freedom in the UK. It didn't start with me, and it continued after me, but I hope this will mark the beginning of the end for this kind of systemic misuse of counter-terrorism powers against journalists who report on Palestine.
I'd say.
Well, I just want to add my congratulations and support Asa, and to say that, congratulations to you for standing up to this, to your lawyers, and thanks to the National Union of Journalists for standing behind you, because it's really important. Solidarity is tremendously important. And I also want to call on the Metropolitan Police, the Counterterrorism Police, or whoever they are, to drop this. Of course, we could give our opinion and say they should drop it. They may do what they may do. But what I want to say to you and to them is that we will stand by you no matter what. There is the whole Electronic Intifada will stand behind you. We will shout loud about anything they do to you. I know that there is a whole huge number of people watching this today who will also support you. So if they come after you in what can only be described as political persecution and retaliation for you exercising your right to free speech, we will make it as hard as possible for them. We will defend you in every way we can, and I want them to know that, and I want you to know that.
It was never in doubt. Thank you very much, Ali. Much appreciated. That's always it's always great to have. I mean, look, normally the tactics of the Zionists against the reporter would be to try and have me fired, but that was never going to happen.
No, I'll only get you a promotion here.
So that's what they have to. They've escalated these kinds of these kinds of tactics.
And that's that's the importance of independent media, because usually when they go after individuals, they're going after an institution. They use the individual to go after the institution and to force the institution to repudiate them and back down from positions and so on. That will never happen with the Electronic Intifada. Never. Because we're independent, we know where we stand, we know that we have the support of people behind us, and that's what lets us do this. And we will absolutely never cave into those tactics. People know us. We've been doing this for a long time. We never have, we never will, and they're on notice about that.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Asa, and congratulations again. What a relief. Finally, before we go, there's some important legal news here in the US. The Columbia University student leader Mahmoud Khalil scored a significant legal victory, but he still remains in detention in an ICE facility in Louisiana. Ali, quickly, before you lose your voice completely, can you give us a brief update on that?
Yeah, of course, Mahmoud Khalil remains in detention and he needs to be out as soon as possible. At the same time, there has been one more major defeat for the Trump administration in its crackdown in an interim legal ruling. I did read the ruling. It's 100 pages. I won't go into all the ins and outs of it, but basically, the judge found that the Trump administration's attempt to deport Mahmoud Khalil is likely unconstitutional, and that the law used against him is unconstitutionally vague as applied to him, and that nobody would be able to know if they were breaking the law or not, the way that the Trump administration is trying to apply it. This was a ruling on a request by Khalil and his lawyers for a preliminary injunction that would lead to his release from prison. The judge said he couldn't release him yet because there are other aspects of the case that still need to be litigated. But he did say that he's going to be issuing orders in the next few days that will hopefully advance the case more quickly. And I really hope that's the case for Mahmoud Khalil and his wife and newborn child, who I don't know that he's even been able to meet yet. So,
No.
but the key thing here is that the judge, the judge went through all of the Trump administration's arguments in great detail and excoriated them. And I've said before that this particular judge came from a background of prosecuting terrorism cases. He comes from a so-called counterterrorism background. This is not a judge who should be considered sort of soft on these issues, but he really did see through the kind of unconstitutional artifice of the administration. So it's a good sign, but there's still more to come, and I really hope that Mahmoud Khalil wins a complete victory very soon. That would be the only just outcome, would be for Mahmoud Khalil to be released, for this attempt to deport him to be thrown out, and for him to be able to resume his life. One thing I'll say, we talked a few weeks ago about when we talked about this case in more detail, there's sort of two parallel tracks in this case. There's this federal case, which is where the ruling was. It's a habeas corpus case where Mahmoud Khalil went to court to challenge his detention as illegal. And then there's the separate case where the government, the Trump administration, is trying to remove his residency, his green card, through an immigration court. And as we've discussed before, an immigration court is not an independent court. It is a part of the executive branch. It's under the Department of Homeland Security, basically. And people were very shocked when a few weeks ago the immigration judge ruled that Mahmoud Khalil could be deported based on the determination from Secretary of State Michael Rubio that Mahmoud Khalil's otherwise completely lawful free speech activities at Colombia would somehow harm US foreign policy. And this ruling casts more light on that. This federal ruling in federal court casts more light on that, because the judge outlines how the law or the regulations in the immigration court are that the immigration judge is required by law to accept the finding from the Secretary of State. So the judge had no choice. The moment Secretary of State Rubio said, I determined that he's deportable, she had to say he's deportable. So the reason I'm pointing that out is to emphasize again that the real case is going to be argued in federal court, and the immigration proceeding is really a kangaroo court.
Yes. And people in the comments, and Ellie says that Khalil was actually able to see his baby after his lawyer petitioned the detention facility, I believe. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
just this
but
week.
yeah, but he should, they made him miss the birth of his son. They made him, he's been in detention for what now, 2 months. It's just so heinous, and they are trying to make an example out of him in order to scare students across the U.S. For speaking
But
out against a genocide.
yeah, but what may happen, and this is to put a silver lining on this, because we all need silver linings.
Yeah,
Of course, the personal suffering that people like Mahmoud Khalil, Rumeisa Ozturk, Mamadou Tal, and others who have been targeted by this administration are being put through is unspeakable and unbearable and unjust. But one possible outcome, given that we're seeing the courts push back, is that at the end of the day, we may have more precedents and more law that actually protect free speech in this country. If things continue the way they've been going so far, which has been that the Trump administration has been losing at almost every turn. So,
yeah.
thanks to the lawyers who are fighting these cases, they've been doing an incredible job, and we hope their successes continue.